correspondent, Reuters, French service here in Paris, and Philippe Moreau-Chevrolet, a columnist with the French weekly Le Nouvel Observateur. We were discussing Syria in the first half. We are going across the world right now because the new leader of one of the world's most reclusive and oppressive states showed the world this week that his slavish devotion to his father's ruling style only goes so far. Kim Jong-un sacked the powerful 69-year-old general Ri Yong-ho, who had been appointed by his late father, Kim Jong-il. He's still following me. Now, in short measure, it was announced that Kim had been named a marshal of the 1.2 million strong North Korean army. That's sort of a redundant title, since he's already leader of the country and its army and practically everything else in it. Now, the official reason for the general's abrupt exit was illness, but few serious Korea watchers took that excuse seriously. They saw it rather as a move by Kim and a powerful family clan member, his uncle Jang Sung-tak, to bring the military more under the grip of the ruling Workers' Party. Now, the military shakeup aside, Kim Jong-un is also stamping his own style in different ways. There were very un-North Korean images this week of a slim young woman in a miniskirt, you heard me right, a miniskirt, alongside the young Kim. And then we also saw her, let's see if we get these pictures, standing alongside the boyish-looking Kim, clapping enthusiastically at a performance featuring American symbols such as Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, get this, Rocky Balboa, I think Frank Sinatra as well. But it's obviously not just all about Disney. I was very perplexed, befuddled, all of those words when I saw these images. Vivian, let me ask you, none of us can really be North Korea experts. It's all guesswork. What did you think when you saw that? Disney, Western icon.
I guess they sort of know something about the Magic Kingdom, right? It's like some surreal in North Korea as much as the Magic Kingdom is. It seems amazing to me. I mean, actually, after Syria, once again, we're talking about a young leader who's taken over from his father, and the whole world is expecting great reforms and great changes. Not necessarily so, even despite this change of style, apparent change of style.
But he does seem to be tightening his grip on the army, on the military, ousting the general and saying, I'll do it.
We saw that when you had Kremlin watchers and you had Peking watcher at the time of Mao, and that's exactly the same thing. You saw people being brushed out, erased from official pictures, and that's exactly what's been going on. And then we learnt recently that Bashar Assad has an iTunes account to buy country and Western music. Well, this is exactly the same thing. You buy into the popular culture and the consumer culture because that's very easy, but it doesn't. Nothing derives from this. And you can have Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse, and you're still a sort of bloodthirsty tyrant starving people at home. I don't think it changes.
It does say, though, so much about this country that we're all sitting here. We don't even know who that woman is. Who is that young woman? His girlfriend? Is it his sister? How can we not know that?
We don't even know anything about the leader himself. I mean, we don't even know his age. We don't know how old he is, really. So we don't know anything about him, apart that he's said to be the son. But that's the only thing we know, for sure.
Patrick.
But there might be something important going on here, because there was a new leader and his uncle, who's apparently the power behind the throne, getting rid of the country's top general because the army is opposing change. And that also because maybe, just maybe, they want to move towards agricultural and economic reforms, and they want to take over the power of the economy from the army. And that would be...
That's only maybes.
It's only maybes.
What
exactly.
we know for sure is that miniskirts, and that from a French point of view, this is really important. Miniskirts are allowed in North Korea, which was not the case before. It's a change in the cultural aspect, image of the regime. I think he wants to do his PR, and he know a little bit more about that than his father.
I would just like to put it to you and our viewers. It's not all about Disney, because even as we were seeing these miniskirts and the Magic Kingdom images, or at least its pirated symbols, I don't think they were allowed to use those images.
That was my question.
The North was sending a very stern warning to the West. This coming out today, that it was, quote, re-examining its nuclear program because of fresh signs of hostile intent from the West. Let's listen to what a North Korean broadcaster had to say today.
The situation compels the DPRK to totally re-examine the nuclear issue. without the US fundamental repeal of its hostile policy toward the DPRK, it will be completely impossible to settle the issue of ensuring the lasting peace and stability on the Korean peninsula.
We do have to move on to our next topic, but just quick, very briefly, what's your reaction to that? Looks very serious.
It is very serious and it is very frightening, but again, it's very difficult to figure out what is just a political message or whether it is a real threat, which is doubtful.
Let's leapfrog back here to Europe because their message couldn't be simpler. No, no, no. We had tens of thousands of people across Spain, among them firefighters, police officers, taking to the streets of cities Madrid, Barcelona, to protest government spending cuts. Now, in the capital, police charged at protesters who set alight rubbish bins. They were furious, the protesters, about 65 billion euros in public sector wage cuts, tax rises that were announced last week by the Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy. Now, in return, what's Spain getting? Well, Eurozone leaders have pledged to help rescue Spain's tottering banks. But that deal just doesn't cut it with many Spaniards who say they feel cheated by the deal. Here are a few of them.
I'm here today because I disagree with the Prime Minister's policies. He's taken a lot of money from us. He's ruined our purchasing power. We're really fed up.
We're workers. They should start by cutting the salaries of those who earn more and only then move on to others.
The aggressive nature of the cuts has caused, the first time in years, all unions to unite for the same cause, to act as a single front to oppose the aggressive cuts by the Popular Party. It's a terrible affront to all of the country's workers.
They're all furious about austerity. Now, here in France, it seems that the debate has been changing, leaning more towards growth. It seems the government there is still full throttle, cut, cut, cut.
Yeah, our situation is a bit more dramatic in Spain than it is in France. I mean, they just approved a package of 64 billion in to spend cuts and tax hikes. And I think, protesters on Spain streets is nothing new. But what is new is that it's all sorts of people. It's just not like youth fighting mass unemployment. You also have civil servants, you have middle-aged workers. So there is widespread anger. And whoever takes massive austerity measures faces widespread anger. And that would probably go for France as well.
And it's all about the banks here. I mean, one of the things they're furious about is they're saying, okay, you're doing this for the banks to recapitalize. Is this really necessary? Is there another course besides just pumping all this money into the banks and cutting the...
I don't know if there's another course because the problem with the banks is the banks are ensuring a public service, which is ensuring liquidity in the economy, and therefore they are not allowed to fail. Whereas if you've got a failing industry, you just let them sink. Except in France, where people protest about this. But the thing is, they say, "Oh, this is all for the bankers. We don't want to pay for the bankers." But they have been themselves living on credit, and I don't just mean the credit that lots of Spaniards have on their homes. I mean the fact that when you have public services, when you have natural health, when you have all sorts of things that your country is getting more and more into debt every year to afford, then you are living on credit. So in many ways, they are getting the bill, and it's going to be the same thing.
But is it all Spain's fault? I mean, let's remind everyone here, our viewers as well, that I guess until 2008, until the financial crisis broke, Spain was running a balanced budget. It was doing just fine. Is it just a matter of this housing boom to bust, or are other European countries also perhaps partly responsible for what's happening in Spain right now?
Greece, maybe.
The question that's
talk
silenced
about Greece and the fact that the Eurozone maybe have been too large. It comprehended Greece at a time when it was not maybe appropriate, and they obviously lived on credit, as you said. But there is a fear of a domino effect that could include France as well. And I think Hollande should take notice of what is happening in Spain, because the social situation in France is as bad, could be as bad as in Spain quite soon. I mean, if he doesn't get results, he doesn't have any credit for the moment.
We could be seeing that not come fall, but maybe come autumn.
Maybe come autumn.
I think this is what's so frightening, is that every time, it seems like every few weeks, we're talking about a totally different new crisis in a new European country. And it all revolves back to the same question of how much fiscal unity you have in the EU, which you don't have. And certainly you don't have it strongly enough to deal with the long-term effects of all this debt in a continent which is really quite dependent on public services, social benefits, things that people have had for many, many, many years.
The whole model basically in question. I want to move on to a country that's outside the Eurozone, but still having a lot of problems of its own. I see Elizabeth Boutet smiling there. With just a week. Oh, this is a serious topic. It is. With just a week to go till the opening ceremony, London's Olympic organizers are hard at work in damage control mode after a shock shortfall in security personnel forced the government to deploy thousands of military reinforcements. British lawmakers were scrambling this week to reassure everyone, well, basically to keep calm and carry on, that the games will be okay, everyone will be safe. I'm chuckling not because it's funny, but actually, well, it is funny. Beyond the security snafu, things keep seeming to go wrong here. I'm trying to be an optimist. 3 busloads of Olympic athletes arriving in the capital on Monday got a scenic tour of London's mews, circuses, parades, and cul-de-sacs when their bus drivers got lost. You heard me right, they got lost, despite having satellite navigation systems. The 24-mile journey, ended up taking 4 hours. Meanwhile, I know it keeps going. Meanwhile, thousands of home office workers, including many of those who check passports for arriving international passengers at airports like Heathrow, say they're going on strike on June 26th. Anne-Elizabeth Boutet, I'm going to turn to you first. June 26th, that is the day before the opening ceremony. That is the day when thousands will be converging on London. They're going to be waiting a long time.
They already waited a long time. Heathrow has got it's the champion for weights, for security weights between when you're changing planes and when you're getting into the country. It already was infamous. This strike was perfectly predictable. The shortfall in passport control employees has been existing for a very long time. Last year, you already had the Daily Mail, and you can trust the Daily Mail to give you really the pulse of the country. Was explaining how it was impossible to run this, and there were cuts so that you had even fewer people, so that any plane coming in from America you could expect not to get into the country before a 2-hour wait. And of course, the Olympics have given the unions possibly to maneuver and to exert pressure.
A showcase. I mean, but the question is here, where is the civic spirit? I don't get it. I mean, in other words, we remember the Brits were so happy.
Where is the public service? I mean, there is no public service anymore in Great Britain. I mean,
yes, there is. If you've lived in America and Britain,
you have to hire private cops to do security or call the army. I mean, this is a bit an extreme situation.
Well, French airports have got private people doing security in French airports.
The army is called to do the security in Great Britain. In France, it wouldn't be like that. I mean, not so much. I mean, we don't give
Vivian,
security.
The whole security story is really, if it wasn't so sad, it would be kind of funny. But, here's a company that lost the keys to a prison last year. Yes. It's just, the litany of things that have gone wrong with this company is just extraordinary. And don't forget, London was awarded the Olympics one day after their suicide bombers on the public transportation. I mean, the whole issue of whether or not security would be okay in a city like London was just it was top of the agenda when it was given the Olympics.
We've seen all these headlines about the ground to air missile launchers being strategically positioned on rooftops throughout London. It seems there's been a lot of emphasis on the negative.
That's the English way. That's the English way. You take the mickey to not to say something ruder. But at the same time, my bet, strangely enough, is that the Olympics will go fine, because at the end of the day, you talk about the British civic spirit, and the sort of organised the unions, all that do not have that, but the people have it. And at the end of the day, I suspect it will work out.
If they could endure the Blitz, they should endure the Olympic Games. Obviously.
And Patrick, yeah.
Actually, I agree. I mean, the Olympics are such a major operation. You're always going to get a few hitches here and there. But I mean, going a few years back, Athens had the Olympics, and everybody predicted it was going to be a nightmare, and looked absolutely awful. And once it started,
and then the game day. I don't want to disappoint you all, but you agree with London's rambunctious mayor, Boris Johnson. He gave an interview. Actually, he didn't give an interview. He wrote a story for today's Sun tabloid, calling on the civic spirit of his fellow Londoners in the face of adversity. And he had some advice for them. I think you could see it right there, that headline. Put a sock in it, we're on to a winner. And he was basically telling his fellow Londoners, if you could read that there, cut out the whining. And for you whingers, put a sock in it.
And, you know,
right?
And in many ways, this also shows you why, and I'm taking bets today, why Boris Johnson is going to become Prime Minister of Great Britain before the next elections.
He couldn't be elected in France. We always whine. That's part of our political
This is very true. This is very, but he would love that precisely because in doubt, suck it to the French, and therefore, so far, we've not been involved into any kind of the disaster. But if there's any way that you can say, well, look at the French, we're going to be different, that wins you an election in Britain.
I would just like to point out, before we have to leave our London topic and the show, you know, the Olympic organizers, on a lighter note, they put out a 66-page handbook earlier, setting out guidelines for volunteer ambassadors. But then the Guardian newspaper, the left-leaning Guardian newspaper, came up with its own guidelines, its sort of own self-styled etiquette guide for international visitors to London. One of them was, remember to bear in mind that knowing or understanding English. Sorry, this is actually from the official guide, not the Guardian's etiquette guide. Remember to bear in mind that knowing or understanding English has nothing to do with someone's hearing or intelligence, so you won't need to speak to them loudly, just very clearly. And I just want to add, maybe you could comment on this, Elizabeth Boutet, the Guardian guide, they basically told you not to try to strike up a conversation with any London cabbies. That is the wrong way to go.
Well, they rather said, you know, do not think that the cabbies are going to be reticent to, if you ask them whether they're enthusiastic about having the Olympics, if you do not want to be subject to sort of the length of your ride, of your cab driver complaining. But that's the London experience. So I should say, you know, go ahead and ask them and have fun. It was a very funny article in The Guardian.
It was a funny. Okay, so if we all happen to take a London cab, we could talk about the Olympics. Unfortunately, we are going to have to leave it there.
Keep us awake.
Next week at this time, we will know, you know, just how that opening ceremony goes. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me here today in the studios for the World This Week. Anne Elizabeth Boutet, columnist with the Sunday Telegraph, Vivian Walt, Time Magazine, Patrick Vignal, Reuters senior correspondent here in Paris, and Philippe Moreau-Chevrolet from the Nouvel Observateur, the French weekly. We have basically covered some of the week, not all of it, but thanks for all being here, and thanks to all of you for watching The World This Week.